From the police state to tectonic plates, Dutch Sense and Tattoo take the temperature of tyranny on Freedom Frequency 1871, coming to you live now.
This is America. We have a founding fathers that wrote a constitution that we haven't lived by in 142 years.
Were they serious when they said they planned on owning the weather by 2025?
And if you're not pissed off, there's something wrong with you right now.
Have you guys seen what's going on outside your door lately? Need I remind you?
This is America! Are y'all going to allow it to be Russia?
Welcome back to Freedom Frequency 1871. This is your host, Dutch Sense. I've got Tattooed on the phone, and we've got our guest host, Chrissy Zoomer, here online. This is great. And, you know, this partnership that we got going on here, you guys may not know as well. We've got a lot of listeners around the world on different social media. Chrissy, Tat, and I all kind of share the same information. So if Chrissy's got a video, she puts it out. I try to watch the whole thing, capture the link, go put it on Facebook. I'll put it on Twitter. She'll do the same for me. Tat does the same for me. We all do it for each other. And we have our recommended channels, of course, that we all recommend on the sides of our different social media sites that we try to favorite up and get the news out. And that's how it happens, guys. You know, we've got viewers all around the world that get awesome information. And they send it to us because they don't have channels. They don't have any outlet to get that information out. And then we sort through that information and put it out to the world. Try to repackage it, read it to you, show it to you. I know Tat will do the robot voice just to read you an article. Because there's people out there, you guys may wonder why we do the robot voice. Why doesn't Tat just show the article? If he doesn't want to read it, don't read it, just show it. Well, there's people out there that can't see, that are watching YouTube, so to speak, but they've got they need to hear it, either a blindness issue or a vision issue. Sometimes they're on a mobile device and they can't read it. So the way we do this is we collect the information from people that are willing to share it with us, or we do the research ourselves, and then we put it out to you. And this leads back to the censorship, okay? When we run into this, when we put it out and it doesn't get shared, it gets discouraging over time. Like, you know, over one or two, it doesn't matter. Maybe even 10 or 20, it doesn't matter. But when it's happening to hundreds of your posts, between the three of us, we're talking hundreds of posts, it becomes an issue that we want to talk about. And, you know, Chrissy has brought awareness on something that I did not know about. You know, here I am thinking I'm awake, which I somewhat am, but not knowing about SERCO, the company that controls the world. And she made a video just the other day, and she gave me a shout out in it. That's why I'm bringing it up now. There's a site called Muckety, Muckety, Muckety. And on Muckety, it's basically a search engine that gives you visual results plotted out on a line chart for any corporation, almost any corporation, and several famous people. And, you know, I've used it for different things, looking up weather modification, trying to see connections between like Raytheon and Boeing and Northrop Grumman, trying to look down laser systems and stuff. But I never used it to look up just regular companies. I never thought to just sit down and type in some companies. And when I was showing them the Muckety site, Chrissy brought up the idea of looking up SERCO. So we did. And the results that came up were so many that it filled up the entire screen to the point where you couldn't see the connections that you would normally see between companies. There's lines that connect on a line chart. There's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And we're talking Caterpillar Incorporated, Campbell Soup, PepsiCo, companies you would never imagine, trash collection companies. Now, how are they all connected, right? What is the connection? Well, there's this company called SERCO that's a British company, I think. And Chrissy can elaborate a little bit more on this. She knows a little bit more than I do on it. But we're talking something here that goes to the level of movie level, like Umbrella Corporation from the movie Resident Evil, the corporation that spans the universe. That's what this is. And they're not a U.S. company. And they're involved in all of our defense contracts, all of our payroll processing, all the employment at different government sites. And
Social Security.
Chrissy, you when you put this stuff out, you care to tell us what happened, or maybe even how you even came about the information? I guess would be a good place to start.
Well, I guess I can thank people in Australia for finding out about SERCO. I was on a Facebook group page, and it happened to be in like an Australian Tea Party type group page, and they were talking about protesting to SERCO over something that was happening on, I think, Christmas Island. And I'm like, SERCO, who are they? So I started looking into it, and I was just literally blown away. I mean, I was blown away by what all they're involved in and how they're everywhere and everything. I mean, they go from picking up your trash to managing schools to private prisons to CERN to they run the patent office. I mean, they're everywhere, and they have billions of dollars worth of U.S. military defense contracts. And some people will argue that it's an American company now, but really it's a global company, but it is British. And they were formerly RCA, and they were bought up by Sony, and they've been around a long time, and I just couldn't believe that nobody heard of them. So I started putting out this information, and it was like nobody got it. You know what I mean? It was just they just didn't get it. They didn't see the importance of it, or some really did, but what really sealed it for me is when SERCO got awarded Obamacare. And I'm like, at the very least, everyone should at least know who SERCO is, because when you go on the Muckety, if those of you that's seen the video, it's literally just, I mean, you can't even see everything that falls underneath the tier, and that was the tier of defense contracts, right?
Right.
And you have these names there that it's like, really, should they be there? And they're really related to a lot of what's happening right now in the world, like Snowden worked for Booz Allen Hamilton, right? They're in bed with SERCO, and SERCO was managing the security at the Navy Yard shooting. And you heard on mainstream they did blame it was security. They said on TV that it wasn't the military that was in charge of security there. It was outsourced. And when they said that, I thought of SERCO right away, right? Because that's like their motto. And they're not talking about it, but yet it's there in plain sight.
Several of the companies on the list are mainstream media companies. Like we're talking about NBC, CBS, even higher. Okay, we're talking Time Warner are on the list. Now, several of them are being staffed by, or the staffing is being handled by SERCO. So like the United States government will say, let's do this project. Let's pass it off onto SERCO, right? And they'll dump it onto SERCO, and SERCO will do everything. You bring up the Navy Yard security. Here's a perfect example. And you also brought up RCA and Sony. Now, Sony, what does that stand for again?
People will debate this, but I believe it stands for Standard Oil of New York.
Right, guys. Standard Oil of New York, Sony. And RCA. So we're talking going back through old radio frequency. Okay, back to even the 1920s. Think of an old RCA record from the 30s, This is all intertwined. The Navy Yard shooting, Aaron Alexis, double letter A, ironically, at the Navy Yard shooting, blamed ELF frequencies and microwave frequencies for putting voices in his head that made him go do what he did. And he carved into his shotgun, the Navy Yard shooting guy, carved into his shotgun, my ELF weapon. Now, the ironic thing about all of this is that the tentacles that reach from one place to another, from SERCO across the defense contractors at Raytheon to the security being handled at the Navy Yard. This is just one example of 1,000 we could use, where SERCO has its hand in each part of the thing, each part of the event. So the shooter is working for the staffing company that's being staffed by SERCO. The frequencies that he's complaining about busting into his head are made by a company definitely associated directly with SERCO.
Well, SERCO actually, they have what is known as Skynet. They openly say that they have their hands in every satellite that's in the sky, but they had a monopoly with frequencies too. So that is very interesting that you brought that up. Mm-hmm. And another thing that it bothers me, because here we have the NSA data mining everybody. SERCO is connected with that, right? And then they're going to be managing Obamacare, complete access to our medical records, right?
Have you signed up?
No.
Neither have I. And I'm not going to, guys. I'm telling you, I'll pay the fine. I won't do it. And Tat, have you signed up?
No.
Obamacare.
You really asked me that? No, you didn't ask me that. I know you didn't. I know you just fooling around, but I didn't sign up for it. I don't think nobody else did. And I just want y'all to remember one thing. Daddy Bush said in the State of the Union address that, we had a good chance to becoming a new world order. And that page right there that Chris is showing looks like a new world order to me. I don't know if it does or not, but it looks like the corporations not only have taken over our country, but it's taken over the world, folks. I mean, think about it. We're talking about giving you freedom or working for your freedom with the Act 1871 to destroy all of this right here.
Yeah.
Not necessarily to destroy it, not just to destroy it, but to take our country back, our world. Because if we don't, we're going to lose this battle. Right. And we're going to lose our freedom. And all of y'all are going to be running around blaming this person, that person. And it's just taking away our freedoms. Every minute of every day, it's just taking our freedoms away.
I agree. And, no one is saying that forming a company and providing a service is bad. It is when a government forms into a corporation and then uses subsidiary corporations to do its bidding, and that bidding is being done not at our behest, the people's behest, but at the behest of the rich and powerful, the elite, the quote-unquote New World Order. People think that's a conspiracy. Here's George Bush. And on September 11th, no less, September 11th, 1991, so 10 years before 9/11, to the day, George Bush gave the famous New World Order speech live on TV. And I was in my teen years and, of course, into the punk rock. And we remember that. They were screaming about it. The punk rockers were at the club that I was at, who they were all older than me. And I'm in my teen years. They're in their 20s. And they're bitching about this New World Order that I'd never heard about before. And come 10, 15 years later, come to my mid-20s, and next thing you know, I'm finding out about Bohemian Grove. I'm finding out about these corporate masters that meet behind the scenes doing things that are very strange to bond with each other like a fraternity would in college. Only they're rich and powerful. They have to do more powerful things. They have to do strange things that trump the other strange things that we normally hear about. And this is a real problem, this corporation thing that we're talking about here. The SERCO is the tentacles on the body. The body is the corporate government structure that exists around the world. And it does boil back to 1871. If you live in another country and you're like, 1871, that's the U.S., how's that going to affect us? Well, your country has formed into a corporation too, in order to do business with the other countries. They all have formed into corporations because they had to. When one did, they all did. In order to do business, quote unquote, with each other, they had to be business is. And that's what our country is. It's a business designed to make money. Now, I would say it needs... I'm sorry.
You know, what's interesting, though, is this corporation, SERCO, is considered a private corporation. And the reason why they get so many government jobs is because they're not bound by the Freedom of Information. So they hide... No, they're not. You cannot hit them with that. Nope. But yet they have so much government contracts, you know?
They got their bases covered, don't they?
They really do. They really do. And the Act of 1871, I believe, lets companies like this flourish.
Yep.
I believe that. I
believe the only way it can happen is because that's where the legalization of the Federal Reserve and the corporations come from.